calling all educators with a passion for teaching and a health for faith. Get ready for a transformative journey with the Educators with Oil podcast, where host Ronette Branham is dedicated to helping teachers become better through biblical strategies.
Hi, welcome to Educators with Oil. I'm your hostess, Ronette Branham, here to equip, inspire, and pour into educators, especially those of faith who are walking in their purpose. Whether you're in the classroom, leading a school, or supporting teachers, this is a place for wisdom, strategies, and a little anointing to keep you going. Let's dive into this conversation. Thank you for being here today. I am excited about today's episode. As you know, we've been on a roll with exciting episodes. We had dynamic episodes since the inception, but we had some especially great guests since December, and this today is no exception. Today's guest is me, myself, and I appreciate you tuning in. This is an episode that I've been working on myself. The strategies is something that I've been working on myself because I have a problem. I don't call it a problem. Sort of is a problem, but I love to talk. I love to talk. You can tell I love to talk. I can talk. I can talk for a long time. There's sometimes I have to take a break and sit back and relax. But if there's a conversation that I'm into, I can talk. I put my input. I always have a story. And today is no different. Today is no different. And today is exactly about that. It's about us getting into, talking a lot as teachers. Do we talk too much? Are the students learning? Are they thinking? We want to get our students thinking. We want to make sure they get the chance to think and not just us talking and answering a question. Don't give a break. Don't give a time for the students to think about the answer. So that is something that I do. We had a workshop a few months back, earlier the school year, and the woman was asking questions, and she was like, how long do we take till we, choose a student to answer the question or till we jump in? And how many seconds? I forgot. Like she said, 5 to 6 seconds or something. Give some time. So now I let the students, when I ask a question, the students raise their hand, a few, because there's always a few. And then we have some passive learners or passive students, I don't know what you call it, who sit back and they sit. They don't try to think. I mean, they are not trying to think. They're not trying to answer the question. They don't assume you're going to call them. They don't assume they should think because Johnny over there, Susie over there is going to answer the questions. So they're just in a la-la land somewhere. And I noticed that. So I give the students, I said, nope, I need more people thinking, more people with an answer, trying to find an answer, trying to ask a question about this. So I give that a little bit of time now. I'm deliberate about that. I'm intentional about that. So I just want to say, talking too much as a teacher is like, do we think when we sit back, do we say after a lesson is done, did I talk too much? Did I talk the whole time? Did the students learn? Did they participate in the lesson? Was I just lecturing? Did only a few students participate? That kind of thing, because things that happen when we talk too much, we create that atmosphere where the students don't feel like they have to participate. They just, like I said, they're in la la land. So let's just talk about, making a shift, how to make that shift from talking too much in the classroom to fully engaged learners. Ever since last year, I've been giving you the same spiel about the students that I have. So I have to be more intentional about getting them involved in the lesson because they already feel like they're outside of the lesson just simply because of the language barrier. And I noticed I have students who, it feels like to me, seems like, I don't know what, it feels like they have no intention of learning English. And that could be partially my fault, where I might go too fast. I might talk too much. They don't understand me, so they sit back and then they don't even get involved. They're like, I don't know what she said. What did she say? And still to this day, students are translating. It just seems kind of like a little different because students learn faster than adults. And so it shouldn't be this long for them to be able to grasp what I'm saying. So again, that's something where I have to reflect on the amount of talking that I'm doing. And I know that James in the Bible, James 1:19 says everyone should be quick to listen and slow to speak. We're teachers though. We have to speak. But is there time to speak? Is there times to say certain things? Like the silence in the classroom can be a powerful thing. It could be powerful. You give a scenario, or you read a story and you let the students ponder, you let the students get together and talk. So I've been doing that now, where they're doing more talking and parent share, right? So we read a story and I ask a question. Like we were reading a story about a woman who invented the windshield wiper, and how and why she invented it, what gave her the idea. So we read the story. I used the visuals, let them understand what we were talking about. If they didn't understand, gave them the words in English and Spanish, and let them see what they had, their own books, thank goodness. And so we discussed, and I let them discuss amongst each other, why did this lady decide to invent this windshield wiper? What caused that? And then they were able to discuss it. And I saw it was in the past, I would give them that, and they're not talking about nothing. They're sitting there looking, or one person is doing all the talking, or they're talking about something totally different. And this week, yesterday, I saw them engaged, talking to each other, discussing why this Mary Anderson invented the windshield wiper. How did she do it? What was it like? What did she see? So they were able to talk, and then a few students, they really weren't understanding. So I let them talk to me and explain it to me. And they were excited because then they could answer the questions. And we talked about different technology that was invented and why. And so I gave them the time to explain it to me and to their peers. And it was, it was a better atmosphere. They were they just were more engaged, so giving them that 3 to 5 second, it says 3 to 5 seconds, after asking a question, before jumping in with an answer. You'd be surprised what the students come up with. Even if they come up with an answer that's way off, and you could get another student to bring them back in. Do you agree with this? Why do you agree with it, or why not? Let them do more talking. And it's better for us. We feel better. We feel like, oh, they're at this point. They can learn something. They're learning something. They can take something home. Not just what I said, what I read, but they were able to interact with the text, interact with the lesson. And so, again, excessive teacher talk can create passive learning. Like I said, a passive learning environment. I said it, and I know for a fact that happens. I have, and I'm not going to say it's just the language barrier. It's because I didn't draw them in. I didn't get them involved, right? So if I talk too much, they'll stand back and they're drawing, coloring, doing whatever, because I didn't involve them. I just kept talking and talking. They're like, for one thing, I don't know what she's talking about. I don't know what she's saying. Talk too fast, speaking in English, or just say it's a regular general ed class. If you're doing all the talking and they know you're doing all the talking, they're not going to get involved, because why? So then I'm just sitting there waiting for the teacher to finish talking. And then she's going to explain to me what to do. She's going to tell me what to do, whether I understand the lesson or not. That's how that happens. I know we don't know that, or sometimes we don't pay attention enough to know that's what's happening, but that is what's happening, that passive learning environment. And Proverbs 18:2 says, a fool takes no pleasure in understanding, but only in expressing his opinion. Us teachers love to talk. We can do it. We can talk sun up, sun down sometimes. And we don't have to do that all the time. Let the students have some, be able to express themselves. Let them, you have those 2-3 students who want to talk all the time and want to express themselves, whether they're on topic or not. We all like to hear our own opinions. We like to hear ourselves talk. So give other people the opportunity. Give them the chance to talk to other students and see, what they can come up with. So we don't want passive learning, because what happens in passive learning, they are maybe not even learning. They're just doing what you tell them to do. They're copying and things like that. but they need to be involved so that they can retain that information. If you're involved in something, if you're practicing something, you're going to retain it better than just somebody telling you what to do. When we dominate the conversation, students get used to sitting and listening instead of actively thinking. Again, I know that. I ask questions in math, literacy, anything. And I have students, and a lot of students, who will just sit there. I mean, they are not thinking. And I'm like, you need to think. I need more people thinking. Really, I do. This is not. So when more people raise their hands, then I'm going to call somebody. And then, so some people think they're slick, they'll raise their hand. No, they don't have an answer. Do you have an answer, really? So what do you have to say about this? What do you learn from this? And, what is your understanding of this topic? And so we don't want to get the students get used to just sitting instead of actively thinking. We want to ask questions and we want to engage them. Ask questions, tell stories, and let them. So just we could think about how Jesus did when he gave parables. When he said something like he asked Peter, who do men say that I am? And he said, this said this, and this say that, and they say this. And he said, but who do you say that I am? So he caused Peter to think. He wanted Peter to use his own mind. It's so much better when we get to have our input and we use our own mind into conversations. The conversations are much more memorable, and you learn again by interacting with the subject matter, whatever it is. You're going to remember that subject matter. So I just, if you have any questions, comments, any thing to add to this conversation, any examples of something that happened with you, how does that work? So like for me, I promise you, the students in my class, both classes, understand why the windshield wiper was invented. They understand why Velcro and how the idea came about for Velcro. They understand that. They could tell you that. I don't know about every student, but the majority of the students understand that, and they can explain it to you. And they'll explain why this man and his dog was walking through a field, and the birds got caught on the fur and on the coat. And the man examined that. Why did this stuff stick to his clothes? So they understand. They can tell you that because they were interacting with the story and conversation. And then, of course, we have students, because they're 7 and 8. They have students who have Velcro on shoes and boots and things like that. And so they were able to demonstrate it and let everybody hear the Velcro ripping off. So they understand how that happened. A student said to me yesterday, she said that it was, the man had burrs. She said burrs. You understand? I wouldn't remember that word, but because she interacted with the lesson, she remembered that burrs got caught on the man's clothes and the dog's fur. Just, you understand, you understand, that's a lot for me. That's exciting for me, for the students to say the man got the idea for Velcro from burrs. Like, who remembers that? Like, I don't know that, right? I know it now. I knew it, but I read the story a while ago. I wouldn't remember the words until I read it again. So for her to come back the next week and say, this is how come the man invented Velcro, and also, if we're talking too much, we don't want to have information overload. If we give the students too much and we're talking excessively, we're talking more than 3 minutes. I'm going to say 3 minutes. It depends on the age of the students. You shouldn't even have them engage longer than their age. They're 15 minutes is max for you to have this lesson. And I give my students, we go longer than that. We go from this to that to that. I give them a break in between, and sometimes I do this and that and then a break. But that's a lot, because then you're going to have wandering minds. But information overload, they don't know how to process all of that information. So one class, I gave this 2 stories in one day about those 2 inventions. Then the next day we gave 2 more. But another class, I could give one story, and then the next day they'll get the next story. Today would have been the day for the second story. Yesterday was the story about the windshield wipers. Today would have been the Velcro for this class. And so it just would, they have to process what you give them. You just can't give them so much information. More words, less meaning. The more the words, the less the meaning. And how does that profit anyone? And that's true. If you keep on talking and talking and talking and talking, it's going to be like, what is she talking about? Blah, 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 blah. You know, so have you ever had a student stare at you blankly after a long explanation, give a long explanation, and then they're just like, yeah, because they have information overload. And I mean somebody who's, attentive in class. Imagine the person who's not attentive, who's not engaged. Too many words can actually cause students to shut down. You're talking too much. Instead, break things up into digestible chunks and let them discuss and reflect before moving on. And that's why we have this, everybody at my school, they understand that I love our curriculum called Benchmark, and how it works and how it breaks things up. And that is something that I was using for these two stories, and how it broke it down. You read one story, you could ask questions. It had a general overall question. And then after the two stories, then it had where you discussing and answer questions and things like that. So you didn't just go from thing to thing. You broke things up into chunks. And like I said, one class I was able to read the two stories. They're really short, 2 pages in there, 7-year-old pages, big words and all that, and pictures taking up half the page. And then the other class, I had to break the stories up by the days. They won't get both stories on the same day because it's too much. It's too much. And so that is something that is like we could appreciate once we understand how it works. Yes, Benchmark, it's the best I had. The other things I really didn't have. So this is something I could look back on and say, I love the way it lays everything out. I love the way it lays out phonics. And phonics is not information overload. They break it up for 5 days. Day 1, day 2, day 3. And even with the demographic that I have, how Benchmark is not even paying me. See, there you go. How it works is you don't have to do everything that it says in one day, because if you have that ELL student, that English language learner, you might have to break 1 day into 2 days, 1 day into 3 days. It depends. It depends. You may have to come back at the end of the day and add some things, because that's just how it works, because you have to give it to them in chunks, and you have to understand your students, how they learn what they learn, because they may learn math a little bit faster than they learn literacy, or vice versa, So, I would say, instead of information overload, I would say, like I did this week, it was just amazing, because this is the class I had to do one story at a time, that I used that turn and talk. I used it, and they were able to turn and talk. They were able to discuss the topic, discuss the story, discuss how come windshield wipers were invented. They were able to get into that and to tell each other, and they come back and tell me what their neighbor said. Come back and tell me what they discussed. That just was, I loved it. I was in heaven, because I'm practicing, I'm studying this, and then I had to practice and make sure that I'm understanding it by, practicing what I'm preaching. You just can't come up and say, okay, this is what you have to do. No, does it work? Did it work for me? Yeah, it did work for me. And it works. If it works for my demographic of English language learners, that you slow it down, that you take your time, that you give them a space to speak and to interact with the lesson, then it can work for anybody's class. That's the set. Whatever I have to do, a special ed teacher has to do, a general ed teacher has to do, because I'm breaking it up for everybody to learn. I'm using the visuals. We're pulling up pictures of windshield wipers. We're pulling up pictures of a car covered in snow. We're pulling up those pictures. We went over some spelling words. right? We're pulling up the pictures. We're demonstrating. We're discussing English words and Spanish words. I have my Google Translate on. I have where it says images. If I had to do, we had roar. We were doing or the sound or, right? And we had a roar was one of them. Don't you know? I pulled up a lion and let him roar. That's a roar. He was actually roaring. So what I have to do to make this work for my class, it'll work for every class, because every class has those dynamics where you have the low performing students, high performing students, great level performing students. So if we take our time, this is my belief, because I had a student yesterday I was doing math with, who it has been a struggle. I did not know what to do. Math, we're doing math, we're drawing the place value chart, and I'm showing her, demonstrating. Then we worked through it. I gave her the next one, let her see the hundreds, tens, and ones, where to put them on that, drawing, that place value chart. I turned my back on her. I just had to. I turned my back and let her add what she had to add. And if she had to regroup, let her do that. And she came back and I was like, oh yeah, because she did it. Like, this is, you understand from less talking, because I could just show her, keep on showing, okay, put this here, me talking. Because I was talking so much, she wasn't getting it. She was understanding like what I was doing, but she didn't get it. But because she had to do it herself and me less talking, more interaction from her with her lesson, with her the math concept, she was smiling, I was smiling, everybody was grinning, because she was able to do it. That is just less information overload, less of me talking, more turning and talking. Let her tell me what she's going to do and why she did it. It just works. I mean, it just works. I'm just excited, because sometimes it takes me longer because I have to figure it out. Well, let me try it. Did I try it? And I'm like, I don't know. But yes, this talking less works, especially when you have the wide range of proficiencies in your classroom, because you have to reach everybody. So you need those visuals. You need more visuals, less of you. Show them, what do you think of this? What does this have to do with our lesson? If I show you this picture, if I give you these words, what is this in relationship to these concepts that we're trying to learn? That it absolutely works. So before this school year is over, I have had exceptional years. I have had not so exceptional years. I have been a model teacher in previous years, where people came to me to look to see. Then I had struggling years. I know somebody else who said every year was something new. And when I say something works, if it works for me, because I'm kind of open-minded, right? I am, right? I'm open-minded. Yeah, a lot of total, is that TPR? Is that total body response? I don't know. It's not a B. I don't know what that is. I think that's that. That's like you're, I don't know what that is. I think I know, but it's using everything that you have in my understanding to get the students to learn, because you have you have a variety of learning styles in the class. So we have to reach everybody no matter what. So we gotta do this thing. And we can, so that's just where I am. And we have to use effective questioning techniques. And I was thinking that was that, but I'm not sure. Let me get your note. Oh, total physical response. And yeah, I thought I said total body response. Yeah, I knew that P didn't say body. But yeah, using everything that we have, movements for vocabulary. Now, that's one thing I see you saying as an item. I don't do that. I don't. I think everything has to work for the teacher. And if it works for you, that's perfect. You will have to demonstrate it with me that it works, and then I'll say, okay, I can try that. But me, I'm animated, but I'm not doing all that. I just have not gotten into it. Maybe because it hasn't gotten into me where I digest it. So do you use that? Does it work for you? That like just say you're saying add something plus something and you use a signal and some kind of body response. Is that what you do? Yeah, yeah, I got enough now. I got enough of my plate. But yeah, that's something because it works. And if there's enough research for almost anything that you could see what works and what doesn't, right? And so for me, using visual, using Google Translate, asking the students how do they say these words? How do they describe these things in their language? That works because they love to give answers. They love to interact. That's just it. Like if they have a chance to interact, they will. So when you see that one with the glossy eyes, give them a way to interact. And I promise you can reach them. I mean, I promise you can reach them. Like you can't make me understand anything different. And then using those effective questioning techniques, like I just said, like I just gave you that example, but open-ended questions. Instead of saying what's the answer, because I'm good for that. Like, what's the answer? They say the answer that they think I'm not. That's not it. That's not it, right? No, give them. Why do you say that's the answer? Demonstrate it for us so we can understand why you came up with the answer. Let's work through it, right? That is just, we can do that. And so, or push them to explain their thinking. You said this was the answer, but why? How did you come up with that answer? Like I just said. And then, so what is the most important idea from today's lesson? Don't let them leave. Get up from the rug, leave their little workstation until they give you, what did you learn today? Or what was the most important thing that you learned that you need for tomorrow's lesson? Because you might have learned how to add 3-digit, but you don't need a place value chart. So the most important thing for me is I learn how to carry or borrow or, whatever I'm doing, adding addition or subtraction. I learned that when I carry that 1, I don't take it all the way to the end. When I used to do it for the tens, I make sure I put it in the tens column and not the hundreds column, because that happened when we ended up with a number that was like 700 instead of 600 because they carried the 1 way over. But what did I learn? I learned that this, in order for me to not have to use the place value chart or not have to use the open number line. So give them that and then let them explain it. Give them a chance to teach somebody something. When we teach, that's how we learn. That's how I understand a lot of these things that I give on this show, is because I had to learn it. I had to understand it. I had to do some research. And then here I can teach it because I had to do the research. I had to practice it. And then, it takes practice from me. I put it into work. If I know I'm going to do a subject that I'm not proficient in, per se, I'll go and practice it. I've been practicing that, not talking so much, but sometimes I forget, right? But yeah, I'm practicing. I'm making sure that this really works, that this is transferable to another classroom, another teacher. If we do this and let the students interact more with the lesson, and us less talk. I remember when I was a substitute, and I remember going into classrooms, I didn't see the teacher hardly talk. And I'm like, this is crazy. How are they learning? They're producing. This was second grade class once, and they're producing writing and things and coming up with their work, and they're editing and all that stuff, their work. And it just was like, oh my. So when did you teach? Maybe she did a lot of, teaching at the beginning and then she let them go. Maybe it was springtime. I don't know, but the students were on it. She didn't have to do much. And that was amazing to me. Way back then, I remember that. And I that's just something that I really want to be there. I want to be there. I could be there with some lessons. I mean, like I said, I had some great years where students understand the rotation. We put the rotation on the board. You do this and that and then that. You go from this station to that station to that station. When you get to this station, you'll be working with me. There, you'll be with your group. You don't need me. You know the stories that you're working on. You have the work that you have to do your writing with. All that. They understood it. Then you get other years where you're like a newbie. And so I love practicing. I love teaching. So teach your students how to teach something. And active learners. So we want to create an active learning environment, active classroom. So I'm going to keep on using scriptures from now on like I used to do. Proverbs 4:7, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore get wisdom, and with all that get understanding. And we want our students, our goal isn't just to give the students information. It's to help them gain understanding. So let them engage. Let them discuss. Let them take ownership of their learning. I promise you, if they have ownership in their learning, they're going to learn more. And you're not going to have to talk so much. You're not going to have to talk so much. Keep explaining. They're going to get it. And then if they don't, they could ask one of their, a partner. You could partner them up with the people who get it a lot. You don't have to do so much. That way, when you get to your small group and you're teaching a concept, they won't bother you. I say bother. They won't interrupt. They don't interrupt you because they're working and if they don't get it, they know how to go to something else, or they know how to ask another person or collaborate with somebody. They know how to get together with somebody else and they can discuss it and work through it. So that active, man, it does wonders in the classroom. I'm looking student led. Let students explain concepts to each other. That's what I just said. I'm going looking at my notes, and that's what I just said. And I know this for a fact. Have students present a topic in their own words. When they come back at the end, they could come back and tell you, what it is they learned, to the class. Explain this. This is how this happened. Students were able to explain really what happened with the Velcro, what happened with the windshield wipers, and then even how windshield wipers work today. Because as I know, you don't have to do that turning of the windshield wiper anymore like it was in the beginning. Now, you don't even have to touch your windshield wiper, so they could explain that it works automatically now. That the more snow coming down, the faster the windshield wipers go. They understand that. They understand that. So we want to give them, give the students a challenge and let them figure it out together. That's something too. A lot of times we wait for science for that, right? For the students to get together and try to figure things out, but we could do that in every subject. Reading, because they have to go back and look in the story and just find the answers. If they can't find, they get with their partners or their group, find the answers to the questions. And get text evidence. They could do that. So Colossians 4:6 says, let your speech always be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer each person. Yeah, I'm working on that. Like, yeah, my students, it kind of, I'm me. They understand I'm me. And they understand that I care about their learning. And so, but at the same time, no matter who you're talking to, it doesn't have to just be your students. Who you're talking to, we need to have that be gracious. And I heard that just now. So educators, the challenge this week is, how can you talk less and get students thinking more? See what I did there? How can you talk less and get students thinking more? Try using open-ended questions, pausing to let them process, and giving them a space to engage in learning. Give them that space. Let them turn and talk, pair and share, do that. So if this episode has helped you, share it with a fellow teacher. Don't forget to subscribe to Educators with Oil so we can continue this journey of faith and teaching together. Tune in, apply these strategies, and let's create classrooms full of engaged, thinking students. And I appreciate you. I thank you. Have a great day. With that, if someone else has a question or comment, I'll give you that. Again, I'll rehash really fast what we could do. Turn and talk. How to create active learners. Use effective questioning. Avoid that information overload. Give them chunks. Give them the lesson in chunks. Not just you talking for 30 minutes. You talking for 15 minutes. Right? We don't want passive learners. We want active learners in our classroom. So remember, silence takes you a long way. Again, thank you for joining Educators with Oil, the Educators with Oil podcast. I am your hostess, Ronette Bradham, here to offer biblical strategies for effective teaching. Thank you and have a blessed day.
Subscribe to Educators with Oil podcast on your preferred platform and join Ronette on this mission to empower teachers through the wisdom of the Bible. Because when biblical strategies meet the classroom, extraordinary teaching happens.
Educators, let's shine a light on our classrooms. See you on Educators with Oil podcast, where teaching and faith unite.